everyone. 41 minutes late.
Right, so yeah, straight away, let's address the elephant in the room. Everybody who's tuned in, super sorry about the late start. We had some tech, but here we are, the reigning champs of fixing technical difficulties. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Super sorry about being a little bit late. Yeah, so I guess I will kick us off. Welcome to the second live stream for the MattePaint Cyberpunk contest. Today we are talking about integrating 3D. Joining me is architectural visualization guru and legend himself, Jimmy Vincent, and matte painting extraordinaire, Ian Vicknair. Ian, how you doing today?
Highly adequate.
Awful, man.
Highly adequate,
Highly
man.
adequate. That is just a perfect summation for just Ian Vicknair in general.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Well, it's great to have you here, man. I'm stoked to hear that you are, in fact, highly adequate. Well, thank you so much for joining. I know that you are going to be talking about some super great stuff today in regards to integrating 3D. And on that note, Jimmy, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm not going to go with highly adequate. Hey, there's like no way you can top that once somebody like introduces themselves like that. You're like, yeah, I'm doing good. It's fine.
Absolutely, that's a hard act to follow.
No, you just move on. It's like you just don't say anything at all.
I've said it in interviews before, and I get the weirdest looks.
I'd give you a
like,
weird
what?
look if you said that to me in an interview. There's a good chance I'd stop the interview. No.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Good to know.
Well, just being honest. No.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Callum. Super
Okay.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. Obviously, to everyone tuning in today, we are going to let these two artistic extraordinaire gurus task of working and integrating 3D into your scenes. At this stage of the Cyberpunk contest for MattePaint, we have seen an unprecedented, unreal, unbelievable, unimaginable response. It's been absolutely phenomenal. The entries we are seeing so far are unbelievable. The turnout is unbelievable. The whole situation is, once again, unbelievable. And I would like to say to everyone who has entered and registered and submitted whips and progress updates, phenomenal job. Absolutely blown away with just everyone's response. It's been amazing. I know that our judges, like the two guys sitting in the room with me today, are astounded with the quality of entries. Guys, I know you've been making plenty of comments on just how good it is to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty amazing. I'm pretty blown away. I mean, all the contests throughout the year have been pretty impressive, but this one is definitely kind of like shaping up to be pretty awesome. And I think it's a good way to finish off like 2020. And, I think get some good artwork out there. And I mean, the list of judges is insane. And I'm even honored to be a judge in the class of judges that are participating. So it's kind of, pretty unreal for myself. And yeah, it's always great to see. So yeah, sweet stuff. Super cool. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like, thinking about like looking at all the images as a judge later on. Like I've been looking at the work in progress, but not a ton. And I haven't been making a ton of comments, I mean, being a judge later on, I don't want to, say too much stuff, but, it's been impressive. At the same time, I'm like, just imagining like how many images of what we're going to be looking at is insane, in a really good way. But yeah, it should be super exciting though. Super exciting. So yeah, awesome stuff.
No, 100%. It's been phenomenal to see just the concepts that came out of the gates straight away, like within the first couple of days, were just mind blowing. And then just the polish we're seeing. I know that like the week 2 assets were just such an awesome upgrade for everyone. Like,
oh, dude.
For those of you, just really quickly, I'm just going to plug it. For those of you who haven't already, make sure to head over to the contest page, get registered, because each week we have been releasing like phenomenal free content, tutorials, assets, photography. Those of you who are participating in the contest, all you need to do to make yourself available to that content is just, work on your entry and then update it to the contest page. That'll unlock all that content. For week 2, we released some unreal cool 3D assets from bigmediumsmall.com. If you haven't already, head over, check out bigmediumsmall.com. They do some amazing 3D assets to work with. Just their masks and everything are phenomenal. And yeah, we have a ton of 3D assets available for any contestant to the contest that uploaded their work in progress or their progress update for week 1. And yeah, I know a lot of the artists have been really excited to integrate them into their entries.
Yeah, dude, that week 2 stuff is just insane from Big Medium Small. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I'll bring it up right now just because like I'm gonna be using it in my scene tonight. But this is some of the 3D characters that those guys provided, and it's just unreal. I mean, it's like, I mean, me just looking at this, I'm like, it's nuts. I mean, it's super, super beautiful stuff. The textures are, dialed in really nice. All the models are, they're all quads. Everything is, this is legit stuff, no doubt. I mean, I feel honored to even be like working with this stuff. So, yeah, it's
so realistic.
Yeah, I mean, we were Ian and I were on their website the other day after I was like looking at this stuff, and I was like dorking out on it. I was just like, this is like so good, like just to be able to have it. So yeah, I mean, that's it's Jom. I'm gonna say that name wrong. It's Jama's company though, right? Right?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
That
guy is.
Well, I often butcher names.
Yeah, that guy's I mean, he's unreal as it is, and like
totally.
So I mean, such a huge influential artist in your guys' industry, and I mean even for me, like, I mean, super influential. I mean, really really talented and amazing, but this stuff is it's pretty off the hook, and I mean, to be able to have this as an asset. Both 3D, and they provided some 2D stuff, which is pretty sweet too, because, you can, if there's something that you rather do in 2D, it's not hard to use what they provided. Like I took a look at it the other day, and it was like all the Photoshop files with all the passes and everything. And so super easy to color grade, relight, and, put in your scene. If the 3D stuff wasn't your game, and that's a really awesome and a pretty amazing thing to do as well. So yeah, shout out to those guys. It's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, it is absolutely insane. Like, for those of you watching who don't know Jama, I'm gonna give a crack at his last name. It's Jurabayev, which is just like the most butchered pronunciation ever. I apologize so much. But Jama is just he's an absolute legend in the industry.
Yeah,
he's been just instrumental to the industry, and what he's doing for 3D assets is unprecedentedly cool. We've been very lucky to get some of those assets, and as you said, Jimmy, like the fact that they've worked so hard to give the 2D assets as well, like there's just so much value there, to some of our contestants who haven't potentially worked with 3D before. There's a real way to make use of those assets as a result, which is really, really cool. And I think, like, for me personally, the most crazy cool thing about these assets in particular is, like, for the theme of Cyberpunk, like, these are so sick. These are so on point. As, like, a base to work from, like, holy, like, what we've seen from, like, week 1 entry so far, like the actual setting and the scenes that are being created, and like the visualization of the cityscapes and stuff, it's unbelievable already. To be able to add like 3D models like this into those scenes, it's going to just step that up, like, just over the top. It's going to be so sick. I'm super hyped. I'm next level hyped on the whole contest. It's unbelievable. But like,
Oh, it's
to
super
have
cool.
things like this going on amongst it, like, it's sick. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I was talking to Ian the other day. I know they're like, if you go to the site, they have these guys. Like, you get the file and you can have it rigged and stuff, but and probably freezing the frames and the poses out of here for what we're looking at now to have like set poses, but just the detail that somebody went through to model this, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, this is not like, it's not a scan or anything like that. So, you know, it's super nice geometry, all quad based stuff. I mean, it's pretty unreal. I literally, when I opened it up, I didn't have too much more to say than that. I was like, yeah, get out of here. But I mean, coming from him, I was like not at least bit surprised. I was just kind of like, yeah,
well,
that totally
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
I was kind of the same, you know, like when I found out that there were, you know, models coming from Java, I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like, this is just going to take it to such a different level. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be sick to see what just you guys come up with, because, you know, both you kind of make something ridiculous out of this. So
Yeah.
I'm stoked to see. But the whole like contest in general, it's going to be ridiculous, because like, we've got like 200 contestants almost already. We've got like, I think, more than 50 like works in progress.
Yeah.
So on that, really quickly, make sure, guys, that you are working on your entries. Like, you've still got plenty of time. There's, you know, just under 2 weeks left for your entries. But in saying that, that time is going to fly. So, you know, jump in, get those entries started. But most importantly, you do need to upload those works in progress to get each of our weekly assets for free. Hey, Ian, you back with us?
Yeah, back. I'm back. There we go.
There we go. That's my boy. Back in the house. So yeah, just with the contest, guys, one more thing. Make sure you are following our social channels to stay updated on all of the contest details. We are constantly releasing new updates, announcements, content. So you make sure you follow our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Jump on our Discord server and community, because that's, you know, the best place to be for it. There's so much going on all the time. We do have the best community out there, so make sure you're part of it. Yeah, I guess what the best thing about the contest is that it's bringing all of these phenomenal artists together. We're seeing just such amazing talent on display. Some of the entries that are coming out already are amazing. I know some of the entries that are coming will be even more amazing. So yeah, look, make sure you're part of it, guys. As with last week, and as with all things MattePaint, we are as inclusive as possible. Whether it is your first day matte painting or your 100 millionth day matte painting, we want to see you in the contest. We want to see your entry. And all in all, if you're not there, you're square. So make it happen.
Yeah, man. Callum, dude, I got to plug you guys for that too. I mean, I super just kind of appreciate the community. And I mean, I think people that know me probably know that I'm a little bit introverted on that stance of things. And I will say that the MattePaint community is just super friendly. Just everybody's, you know, really supportive of each other. And even with a contest this big, with like so much kind of like, I mean, not like so much at stake, you know, it's not like your life or something, but there's some really great prizes, and you know, like anybody would want to have those, but everybody's still, you know, super supportive of each other and offering feedback. And that's yeah, I don't know if it's rare per se, but you know, it's not I don't think a very common thing either at the same time these days.
Straight up jump in and say it is rare, man. Like,
yeah,
for an online community to be this inclusive and supportive, like every single person we have in our community is an absolute gem of an artist, an absolute gem of a human being.
Yeah.
And like a testament to that right away is you just look in like the YouTube chat right now, and it's basically just like community members just high-fiving and high-ing each other, because everyone loves everyone, and it's the best.
No, it's like super cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's...
I've been complaining about this of like, man, I wish I had this 3 years ago when I was starting. Where was it?
I don't know, man. Like, you know, I come from architecture, which is like, you know, I mean, it's like a devil community. No, I'm kidding. Like, I mean, I love everybody in architect. I mean, I love everybody in architecture, but dude, it's brutal. It can be a little cutthroat at times, you know, all the way through school, grad school, and everything like that. So I think it's super cool to kind of see this and see everybody coming together and kind of supporting each other. And
It is.
yeah, that's really different, and definitely for probably the biggest reason I definitely enjoy, you know, doing this and being a part of this is just, you know, people are just cool, which is good. Cool people are good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I support good, cool people these days. So
Anybody
anybody,
too, brother, man.
yeah, anybody that's cool, you have my stamp of approval.
Not a very high bar.
It's yeah. The bar is set really low, man. I'm just like, you just got to be cool, like.
Just be cool, man. Just be cool.
Just be cool about it.
Hey, Ian, I know that you were pretty excited for some of our contest prizes.
Yeah.
Pretty keen to hammer down an entry as a result of that.
Mhm.
What are you looking forward to potentially getting your hands on the most, my friend?
It's all Ian talks about, by the way.
Yeah, there's one. It's I'm gonna butcher the name as well. Gaia.
Yeah, I think Gia.
Yeah.
Gaia. Or Gia.
I call it Gaia. So
Gaia.
I'm
I think it's
calling
Gaia.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gaia.
That's
Yeah.
a s
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Gaia, potentially not. Yeah.
Mhm.
also
I'll
an
go
amazing
with Gaia.
plugin.
Mhm.
Or actually software. It's not even a plugin now. It's like its own independent software, but it's insane for like
Dax
creating.
has done such a
Yeah.
phenomenal job with that, actually. It's such an
That's-
unbelievable piece of tech, which is why Ian wants to get his hands on it.
Yes, I do. Because I want to get more into the environment journalist route, and like
Oh, very cool.
World Machine is dying in companies, and
Oh,
Gaia is taking over. So I want to get on that
be
program.
nice,
and
dude. Be nice.
World
Really
Machine's so
quickly,
amazing.
right back at you, Nicola. Very much appreciate you as a community member and just, you know,
Mhm.
who you are as a person. We you know, it's all love here, and with people like yourself, we love you a lot. So, you know, shout out to all the people in the chat, all the people watching right now.
Oh.
Do me a big old favor, test that like button, hit that thumbs up just to make sure it's working. If you do click it, if you might get a topless picture of Ian. If that's something you don't want, then click it and you won't get it. So, you know, make sure
I do have
just,
goods.
just test it. Just test it.
Dear God.
But yeah, look, I guess from where I'm sitting, guys, just one last little plug to the contest participants and our community. I'm just so blown away with what you guys are doing. It truly is just unbelievable. I'm so impressed. To absolutely everyone who's thinking about joining who hasn't yet, please do. It is not too late to enter. It is, you know, you can enter right up until the very last hour. I highly recommend starting a little earlier than that, but you very, very much can. So get amongst it, get involved, stay connected with us by following our social channels, jumping on the Discord community. What I'm going to do from here, guys, is I know both of these guys, Ian and G, to take on some artistic freedom that I'm about to give them. They're going to talk to you about actually some educational, useful, and relevant things, and I'm going to take a bit of a back seat and stop talking shit. So, if you guys would like to kind of take over, you know, talk our community, our viewers, our MattePaint contest participants through how to use these 3D renders that have been provided by Big, Medium, Small, how, you know, to integrate 3D elements into those Cyberpunk contest entries.
Yeah.
I would very much appreciate it. I think everyone else would very much appreciate it.
Definitely.
And I insist that you have fun with it.
Oh, dude, nothing but fun. I feel like I was just here. I mean, I just did one like a month ago. It's fantastic.
Well then, if it feels that kind of consistent and effortless for you, maybe we should just get you doing them all the time.
yeah, you know, just monthly. To like 12 a,
I mean,
you know, 12 a year.
I'm thinking
Whoa.
hourly. I'm thinking like just Jimmy round the clock.
I don't know about that, man. I don't think anybody wants to hear me around the clock for sure.
man. I get about it.
So, yeah, we should get going, Ian. We should start.
Let's dive into
Let's
it.
dive into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So,
you've been making.
well, I mean, I'm not making anything for this contest. That's for sure.
Or, well,
No.
what you doing though?
After we just plugged it, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing it. No, I mean, I think people like, it's not. I think it's an amazing contest, but obviously, I'm busy with family, day job, and stuff like that, and personal work when I can, when I actually feel like doing that. So, yeah, kind of coming off the last kind of image that I did for the cover art and whatnot. I'm working on a tutorial right now for MattePaint, and that will actually go over maybe in more detail than we'll get to tonight, but some of the concepts that I'll be talking about this evening. And so actually kind of dug up a image that I was like working on some time ago, but then I don't know, I didn't finish it, not because it wasn't like good or anything like that. I think I'm pretty bad at I have like a sketchbook full of like ideas, and so if one starts to intrigue me more, then like I'll just go on. So I think I kind of like left this one behind a little bit, but then when this came up and the assets kind of fit perfectly and whatnot, I think it's like a perfect subject to be talking about. So part of that is this is a lot of people working in 2D and then getting some 3D assets. So, how do you, I think everybody will help different workflow and how they go about this. But this one works nicely for me. And I like it quite a bit. But I think it's like anything in 3D and or 2D. I don't think there's like a right or wrong way to probably go about something. And there's probably 100 different ways that somebody could do something and achieve results. So I'm just going to talk about one way. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So, I mean, I have these assets open here in Max. We'll get to using these. Again, this is the stuff from big, medium, small, insane stuff. So I don't have more to say about it than that. So let's go back. I'm going to go back all the way to where this is even coming from. So a while ago, I did this image, which also is 2D and 3D. So it's backplate and then a lot of 2D. And then obviously in the theme of my own personal work, this stuff in here is all 3D on top of this solar field, and very much in line with, I don't want to talk about it too much. If you go back to, I think we had a bit deeper of a conversation on, what I'm doing and like what I'm up to and why, and why maybe last time. So building off of this image, usually from whatever I create, like rig, or I guess you could say infrastructural wise, I try to do no more than 3 shots, but somewhere around like 2 or 3 to, kind of fill out the story. Just never completed the second shot of this. So the second shot was meant to be something like this, where you were kind of going to be standing on, this was over a solar field, and these all had solar panels on them and stuff. So this was done, I don't know, dude, I did this probably like maybe 2 years ago now. So it was some time ago, pretty long ago. So you have
that's been ages.
I know. It's been a long time. Like I literally have not, I'm pretty bad about, I mean, this from talking to me, I'm pretty bad about like going back and looking at work and revisiting stuff. And so kind of when I'm done and that's it. So, so this was like sitting on like solar panels. So went back and kind of had this initial idea of, looking at these rigs and, looking out over and what it'd be like standing on those solar panels, and just did like a quick, I cannot draw. So even doing this is tiresome for me, but like it's good. I think a good, and everybody's doing it. in the contest. And I always really enjoy seeing people's like work in progress concept sketches. You know, I think even if you just quickly block it out, like I usually do it in like Procreate on my iPad, you know, like when I'm just like sitting around, and then like export it. And, you know, sometimes in this case I was working on top of a photo. So like, I like whatever gets you there. It's like, I mean, for me, it's just about like, just to get it out and say like, okay, this is like the general direction or maybe general composition that I'm thinking of, and then, you know, start going into 3D. So so, you know, to go over the backplate a little bit, like this actually was the backplate before I like graded it and did some stuff to it and replaced the sky or added to it. So obviously, you know, working on the sky, a little bit of sky reflection into here. I mean, there's some pretty big things that, I mean, we're not going to get to tonight, but kind of plan on doing like blowing ash across here and whatnot. So, I mean, we're not going there with it. And then kind of, you know, color graded it all down, and then, you know, just some final tweaks. So this is what I'm using in 3D now as my plate.
So you can get all the light and color from that.
Yeah. So I can actually, and we'll be going, I'll show that now. So, I mean, I just wanted to show like people, I think one of the great things about like this contest and now like integrating 3D is like you have the option to, I think there's several approaches that you could take. Obviously, you could create a full scene in 3D and then matte paint on top of that. But I think you could also matte paint a backplate and then use that in 3D, and then get the 3D back out, and then continue to work on top of it. That's probably how I would actually approach it, and definitely how I'm approaching this image. So, you know, technically I could probably like clean up reflection stuff and like, you know, whatever I think this is like a person sitting there, but I will just probably block it with 3D stuff and not really worry about it. So I'm gonna, that kind of gives you know, a little bit of back kind of drop from that, you know, like research wise, I was looking at a lot of Gattaca stuff at the time of like, you know, thinking about this image. So, you know, I mean, we always talk, I'm a huge movie nerd, and in a different life, maybe I'd be in a different industry, but since
never too late.
Oh, I don't know, dude. It's like I'm 43 in a couple weeks, so I think this life is like halfway over. So, you know, it's like starting over is probably not going to be happening. But you know, just looking at stuff like this, there's some
amazing color palette.
Oh yeah, there's like I mean, amazing. Gattaca is an amazing film, actually. If not for anything visually, it's super stunning. Like, you know, I mean, this stuff is just, it's pretty awesome stuff. So
had a nice color balance of just the blue and the orange together.
Yeah. It's really nice. Wow. It's really nice. So, you know, kind of wanted to do something like that. It fit in with what I was doing earlier. So that is kind of where, you know, this scene then developed. Sorry, people can kind of see I was testing out some stuff earlier, so we can talk about what that is and what I'm doing here. So the scene as it is right now is pretty simple, because like I said, I mean, I stopped working on this some time ago, and left it. So it's you know, none of the wires are there or anything like I was thinking of doing, and you know, I was just quickly composing it and, you know, seeing how it would go and where it would go with it. But I think it's
getting it set up.
Yeah, but I think it's like a appropriate place for the contest and that conversation. So it actually like worked out really well. Like it's not far enough to where it's like I'm just gonna like do like a pull through, and it's not like deep enough in 3D where somebody might be like, holy crap, you know. So like it's actually like a pretty I'm in Max, so it's actually like a pretty dumb scene right now. I mean, it's just it's even much smaller than the original scene that I did with the other one. Like I actually deleted quite a bit of stuff. Just it was I'm not going to see it in this shot, so it's not going to be needed for this one. So
seeing that backlight though, you're going to get a lot of reflection. That'll be really nice to see though.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty good. So what I'm going to talk about is and Ian, we've been talking about this for the last couple weeks actually.
Yeah.
So the way I'm doing this is I'm using what, at least in my rendering engine, is called like a shadow capturing material. I'm using Corona renderer. I I use that. I don't have like a preference for a rendering engine. I think there's so many great ones at this point. Like I talked about that in the last stream. So I think like just use whatever is comfortable for you and feels good for you. And I think for me, Corona kind of just I'm still CPU based, and so it made sense to stay that way for the moment. I don't know if that'll change in the future to something else. And B, it just they kind of removed before. I mean, V-Ray and a lot of the other Redshift, a lot of these other ones are doing this now, but it removed kind of the settings in terms of like fine tuning, like subdivisions or something like that, and you got to focus more on the art, which I want to do. I don't really, I rather focus on like shader building and lighting and stuff like that than setting the subdivision of my material to 32 to get a efficient rendering. Like I kind of don't want to worry about those types of things. I don't particularly enjoy it and find it frustrating. So I made that switch some time ago, and I think a lot of the rendering engines are kind of like following suit now at this point to make it a little bit easier for people. Anyway, so let's look at this. I'm just going to open this real quick. For my lighting, it's pretty simple. I mean, most of the time I'm using an HDRI. I'm a huge fan of Peter Guthrie's stuff. So if people don't know that stuff, just look him up online, like Peter Guthrie skies.net or something like that. I think it is, and I mean his skies are insane. Right now, probably the nicest stuff that I can think of on the market for rendering. So I don't use the sun very often. Actually probably never. Mostly just using HDRIs.
Who needs a sun? Just use an HDRI.
Yeah. I mean, it's my workflow and it works. It might not be somebody else's, and not to say that you couldn't get an amazing rendering with the sun. I think it's fine. It's just for me, this works.
It's much trickier.
I think it just works for me. It has the reflections and whatnot. So, this was. I'm going to drop this guy in here real quick just so we can see the backplate, how it is in the scene. And then, or not.
3ds Max.
Oh, you gotta love it. Yeah, right.
There's different ways to go about lighting. I've been getting more into it, and
this is my fault. Let me switch that
when
to
I light my
screen.
scenes.
Okay, so
go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so this is just set up to screen projection mode, so I can see like what the backplate's going to look like. And then obviously, I think here, if you go, you'll have this plane, which is sitting on top and representing, the solar panels. Really simple. I mean, not complex at all. And on that particular piece of geometry, I have what's called a shadow catching material. And that basically projects the plate onto that piece of geometry quite nicely in this case. And within that, let's make this guy.
You get all that detail.
Yeah, so within that guy, I have like the opportunity to adjust the reflection property. I can say, okay, I want this to always be solid. Most likely for my final, I usually set this for compositing. So I will be able to then have that as, or just in my render passes, it's not showing up. So I can take it back into Photoshop and have complete control over that. So I won't use that. But for this, I can just set it to always solid for the purposes here. So that is what is, and it's pretty easy. I'm not doing a whole lot here. So this was the original backplate. Sometimes it can get a little, like the coloring can be a little off or a little darker. So this node is just kind of adjusting the exposure of the image and stuff like that. So nothing all that fancy. And then in my render settings, let's see, I'll be overriding that into here to show the backplate and not the HDRI. But the HDRI will be lighting the scene, and then all the other objects will be picking up the reflection and everything from the backplate. So it kind of sounds confusing. It sounds confusing, but it's really not, and it's really actually a pretty popular workflow within like automotive rendering. They do this quite often, where they have like a backplate. Yeah. There's like sites. I think for them it's even more common to probably like shoot a ton of backplates and then shoot an HDRI of the location, and then you have exactly everything that you need to composite. Yeah. I don't have all that because obviously I don't have an HDRI of the backplate, but we can get away.
They do the same in film.
Yeah. So we can get away with
every location.
Yeah, so we can get away with like this HDRI. I usually try to just get something that's close. Get something that's close with the sun. So that worked for this one. And yeah, it's from there it's really not really all that big of a thing. Put that back in there to make sure that that's projecting right. Yeah. And so from there, it's pretty easy. So like if we start rendering,
do you want to explain a little bit what a shadow catcher is, just for those people to kind of understand a little bit in depth of what's the purpose of it? What's the point? Why would you use it?
Yeah, I wish I could like actually explain like the technical aspects of it, but I'm probably not the most well-versed person to explain those things. It's basically a material that is using a backplate to apply to geometry to capture the shadows and or reflections of whatever is in your scene, be it a car or in this case these objects here, and obviously now, right, I'm catching those reflections in here. You do have a little bit of funniness going on here at the horizon line, which is expected, and for me, I don't particularly care because I'll matte paint that out. So this scene will start to get filled with 3D stuff, and I can matte paint all that stuff out. But if we go here and see, if I go to so everything is still quite I don't have all the channels and everything set up, and that's going to be really noisy right now, but that's basically what it does. So if we go into here, if I go back to the material property, let's close that out. But if we go back here, we could start fussing with that, right? Like, so if your material is or your reflections, you feel like they're too sharp or anything like that, you can, adjust the glossiness of this. We can bring this, if I set it to 1, it's like basically a mirror. And if I, start bringing that down, let's go like 0.25, it's gonna, right? Like I start losing those reflections pretty quickly, or they get blurred out. So, start blurring them, bringing them back in. I think like 0.95 is 0.95 or something like that was feeling nice for this. I don't know. You can be somewhere. See, you could do that, and then it'll be, But at the same time, right? Like I'm trying to match that reflection. Doesn't make a lot of sense because the reflection of the sky is showing up quite sharp. So this number is something that each person has to play with individually. But I really like working this way. I do this quite often in my own stuff. And it's not that I will like render this out and then use this rendering, I guess. And that's kind of weird too. So like,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna, unfortunately, I don't know that we'll get to that tonight
Yeah,
per se, but
that's awesome.
usually what I'll do is use this in conjunction with the backplate that I already started painting. So
Hmm.
I will like bring this in, start masking things out, and then adding things in and using
Yeah,
it as I need to. And so it's pretty awesome and pretty forgiving way to work on the auto save. Okay.
yeah.
I love
I
it.
mean, it's such a clever idea just to take the play you're taking and reproject it, colors and reflections
Well, that's the
back
point. It's
into
like
this 3D. Yeah,
it's a good way to rather
push
than
the realism.
yeah, like rather than sit there and try to like color grade everything and all your
Yeah.
stuff and get that to match. It's a very good way to not
Mhm.
have to do that and get
Yeah,
and get more realistic results, right? So
yeah.
this way you can get those shadows and you can get those reflections and you can get all that stuff. And I'll show you. We'll start adding like, let's
Mm.
as soon as this is done saving, let's save out one of those characters. Here, I'll go over there.
Mhm.
Let's grab one of these guys and
Right.
dump them in the scene. I think I had like this guy in here earlier. I don't know. Um,
'Cause I get what it's like to where you render out the 3D and then you have to rematch everything to the plate
ah,
and add elements and rematch it, and it takes so much time
so I think you
to get
could.
it to work right.
So that's what I mean. I think you could do that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think there's anything wrong with that way of working. I just think that
Mhm.
now, like, I mean, there's so many really cool things in 3D, and so
Mhm.
many different ways of working that you probably, if you have some 3D,
Yeah.
if you have some 3D knowledge, it's probably faster to work this way. But again,
Mhm.
that's like how I feel. So, not everybody might feel that way, but it's how I feel. So I already kind of did some pre-work on this. Obviously,
Mhm.
these assets are super amazing. I needed to convert them
Yeah.
to, for my use, I needed to convert them to like Corona materials. Luckily,
Mhm.
luckily Corona, I think most rendering engines now at this point have like a built-in self converter.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty easy for me. I just like, well, where's it at here? It's like a converter button here, and then ran that
Mhm.
conversion, and it kind of fixed that stuff for me. So I don't,
That's
I
awesome.
don't, think about it too
Mhm.
much.
Make
Uh,
life easier, not harder.
oh yeah, I'm like not, I'm not in the mood to do things that like, you know,
Yeah.
any extra work is not coming down my way. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can see it like rebuilt that material, and again, these assets are, I mean, phenomenal. Like I was going through the textures the other day, and you can change the color of this guy's suit, and I mean, just everything. It's just like endless. So I mean, it's pretty in depth stuff. So shout out to those
Mhm.
guys. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna
It's
just
impressive.
yeah, I'm gonna save this guy. I'm usually I get in the habit of like, and this might not work for everybody either, but I don't really like to mix my assets with like my current scene. Let me stop that.
Mhm.
So I will usually work on an asset for a scene separate away from the actual scene. At least
Mhm.
in terms of like getting it ready, and like in this case I knew that like some shaders needed to be redone and whatnot, and I'll do that in another file and then just save out what I want and merge that in real quick. That's how I like to do it, but anybody else can do it however they want,
Mhm.
which is good.
Nice.
So I'm just going to save this as person. Just save this as a max file real quick here on top. So everybody
Awesome.
that's listening to knows that like so the last stream Max,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't really like Max for modeling. I actually really hate it.
Mhm.
I think everybody I think everybody knows this by now. Like I'm like, but for rendering I like it a lot. But modeling wise, I model in Maya.
Mhm.
So I obviously have the scene over here, and um, these two talk to each other so well now. They're both Autodesk products, so it's like I'm currently connected to that scene. And
Mm-hmm.
I can say update and it'll send the geometry back over. So, before I started, I was like starting to think about like the cables and, what that's going to look like and whatnot. So it's really easy to work in between the two now. Almost like you don't even have to think about it. It takes everything over. So,
It's awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's
Man,
good.
those buildings are so detailed. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a lot of
It,
like just kit bashing
mhm,
stuff that I
mhm.
like. I talked about this a little bit last time.
Yeah.
I really, really like kit bashing.
Mhm,
I like designing with kit bash.
mhm.
Not
This makes me think of Star Wars a little bit when the
I'm not
clone troopers are
I'm
going in the
not that cool, dude. But
oh,
thanks. I'm not like
Star
Star Wars.
Wars.
I'm not Star Wars cool, but I appreciate it. I don't know that
It's awesome though.
whatever this seems to have gotten like weirded out, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so I think like people know like I usually model in here and then take it
Hmm.
over to Max and do all my rendering over there. Partially
Hmm.
because A, they don't make Corona for Maya. B, I just hate it for rendering. I've been in here for a really long time and
Hmm.
through the whole mental ray thing and then Arnold and then yeah, I think for my purposes and what I do at least on a daily basis, I like Max
Hmm.
a little bit better. So anyway,
The one of the questions is if we'll be able to show like how to do a good nighttime scene. And I think it's going to go back to like what you've already shown, where you can either do like an HDRI, where you can have a nighttime HDRI to use as you light, or do your matte painting as a nighttime scene, and then bring that into 3D and reproject it so you get those same colors and whatnot.
yeah, I mean I think
Um,
like
yeah.
a nighttime scene like I would approach that probably not much too differently than I'm doing this scene. I mean this is pretty close. The sun's
Mhm.
almost down there. And I haven't added any of the lights in for the rigs or anything like that. But there's plenty of HDRIs that are either, I usually don't go all the way like night. I'll usually,
Mhm.
stick around that like blue hour.
Mhm.
Sun is
Yeah.
gone. Sun is gone, but it's not like completely pitch black dark out.
Yeah.
And use an HDRI and then push it from there. That
Mhm.
I very seldom do like a completely nighttime scene. And so I think that would be the same with everybody else. You could just use an HDRI. If it's completely nighttime, then I think you can still do an HDRI. Just pick one that's like, completely cloudy. It's just to at
Yeah.
least give a little bit of like environment feel light. I mean, there's plenty of
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
I have tons of like just fully cloudy HDRIs
Yeah.
that I use for that specific reason. I use them for
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
times for night shots.
Yeah, so it'd be the same way you approach a daytime. It would probably be the same way you
Yeah,
approach as a nighttime. Just play a little bit more with your lights that you add in. The only thing I would suggest though, because I've been kind of getting more into this because I've been working on a project that's nighttime specific. Be careful with your exposure of your lights. Because if you think of a light bulb, you have the center point of light bulb, even though it's very bright, it still has a color and a material in it. So be sure that you have that nice glow and that nice balance. So play with your gamma and your exposure to get like those nice subtleties, and then color on top of it. But anyways, back to what you're doing.
yeah. So I mean, let's go back to. So I'm just gonna merge that guy. Let's grab that little person that we made there. Well, I didn't make them.
Characters are tough to do, man. Oh,
What?
characters are super tough to do
Dude,
with
I that's
with
why
Yamas.
that's
Yeah,
why when I saw this stuff, I was like, Psh, get out of here.
it's
Get out of
it's
here.
gold.
Yeah, it's like literally golden. It's like, dude, I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, character stuff is so tough. It's like I'm not.
It just adds to your story instantly.
Yeah, and I'm
And
not.
one thing,
I
yeah.
mean, usually, I mean, usually I do like, we talked
Hmm.
about this in the last one. I do a lot of like photo shoots with, for my work.
Hmm.
Usually it's with my wife,
Hmm.
for my personal work. But, or I work with a lot of like 2D people.
Hmm.
But then obviously you have to get into some relighting and or take the picture close to the time
Yeah.
that you need and Photoshop that in, which is also not a hard
Hmm.
thing to do, but this kind of just alleviates that a little bit you know
Hmm.
um,
Was was your character when you brought it in like 10 times the
yeah.
size of the structure?
so I find
That's
this
always fun when you get things like that.
so I find this a lot. I mean, I think that this is like pretty common,
Hmm.
that 3D
Yeah.
3D assets are like in a ton of different scales. I'm in meters right now.
Hmm.
You also know, I think being an architect, I'm always like really picky with scale. Unfortunately, I think when I was doing this scene, I don't even know that I was thinking about that. So I'm just going to like, I'm gonna ignore the fact that I like didn't care about it apparently at
Hmm.
that point. And then I guess I should like probably have set my auto save to like a half an hour on this because
Hmm.
it just keeps auto saving all the time. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's, so I mean,
Hmm.
this is how it would work with anything, and we'll bring in some different assets as well. Like I got mega
That's awesome.
I got mega scans open here, so we'll get some stuff from that
Hmm.
and can kind of talk about
Just
how.
utilize anything you can kind of get your hands on.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
granted, we pay for this
Yeah.
stuff, but it's not, you know, get your hands on it at a cost, I suppose. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think it's more just about like how you would go about like, that. So I mean, this is, not a very difficult workflow, right? So he's already kind of on that shadow catching material. Just gonna go in there and make sure that it's there, and then yeah, let's start rendering and see what that looks like. Probably too big for my scene, and the scale, but you can see,
Yeah.
again, right, reflections already starting to show
Yeah.
up, how I want it. I can,
Hmm.
bring that closer to the camera. Whatever
Hmm.
whatever
Yeah.
I need to do for
Hmm.
this particular scene, which is
It's
sorry,
awesome.
everybody, I work with one screen, which some people might hate, but it just drives me nuts to have any more than that. So,
Hmm.
you know, like I said, for this,
Oh, that's awesome.
like
Yeah.
I would probably block that guy anyway.
Hmm.
I don't know how like at the end of the day, um,
Hmm. But you
how
can move it around in 3D space like this, get a good idea of like where you want it to be,
yeah,
the composition
I mean
with
this.
your light.
Of course, like I mean,
Hmm.
I think every rendering engine probably has this at this point, whether you're using
Yeah.
a GPU or a CPU, is some kind of
Hmm.
like live situation. And so
Hmm.
I'm usually working in that quite a bit, and then going to you know, my other views just to see, what that looks like. Let's scale that guy down a little bit.
The I mean, I don't know if this is a helpful tip for anyone, but if you're ever doing anything live like that, where you're trying to just get an idea of a block out of where you want your characters, like let your test render be super low resolution, just so you can
Yeah,
move around quickly. Yeah, because
it's
I
pretty.
tried it once at 4K and it was a nightmare.
So it, Corona's pretty cool in the sense that like
Mm.
that for me for live
Yeah.
it's kind of based on how big this window is. So if I make that window big, it'll refresh and then
Mhm.
it'll be that big. And then if I take that down, uh, and put it over there, it's gonna refresh and be 798 by 340. So
Mm.
something like that is probably pretty good. And I will just continue to, build that out. So, I mean,
Mm.
this is how I work for, everything. And
Mhm.
obviously, you'll start to see
Awesome.
in the alpha, if we had all our channels in
Hmm.
here, this is coming through. Um,
Hmm.
and
Nice.
super simple. If I think if we set that, I gotta remember. Let me see if we set this to for compositing. Yeah, so if I set this for compositing, then you'll see like I start to kind of like see through it, and it's giving me that like that reflection in my alpha channel because it's for compositing. So that's like super helpful too. And that's just in my shadow catching material. So, or I can say like it's always transparent. And then if I go to the alpha,
Nice.
then it's not there at all, right? So I use this a lot, and I just say it's always transparent. And then I take this stuff and put that back into my plate, right? Like I'm not after the plate so much reflections. So I'll probably use
Yeah.
the bottom half of the plate, but for everything else, I can work on that stuff separately. You know,
Awesome.
by setting that in the material, which is super helpful, right? So yeah, I mean this is
Very cool.
basically it's hard because I don't want to make it sound like I guess super easy, but it's also not, I don't think, super hard to start to add 3D elements to your 2D stuff. I think it's just about like
Yeah.
thinking. I think it's just about like thinking like how you're gonna approach that and what that looks like and what that means for your scene.
Very cool.
These
That's awesome.
Dude, these characters are seriously unreal. Like unreal.
Mm.
Like they're amazing.
They just add everything to the story that you need. Just even one character in any kind of environment just adds to the story, to the
Yeah, I mean,
scene, to everything.
you'll see. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before too. I'll usually try to keep like at least like a rule of thirds set up in my camera. So like I'm always,
Mhm.
kind of working on that, whether it be for a character or for
Mhm.
even the machines. I try to keep on that.
Yeah.
So for that composition purpose, I actually probably will have
Awesome.
not too many of these guys close
Mhm.
to the camera.
Mhm.
But let's see what else we can do. I mean, this is, like I said, this is um, pretty typical of how I work in general. Um, let's see.
Awesome.
Let's
Get some wires in there.
Yeah, so that's
It's
back.
awesome.
That I'll probably do that stuff back in Maya. Just
Mhm.
to kind of like lay that out, and then use a
Mhm.
script. I've shown you like the create tubes. There's one like
Yeah.
there's a wire script. We talked
Mhm.
about this one the other day.
Yeah.
So it's just called Cable Creator.
Mhm.
Work and add that stuff in. I don't know that like we particularly need to do that live, but
Yeah.
I'll start to like
Yeah.
fill that in. But I think like one thing you know I use a lot is
Mhm.
like mega scans. I do use
Mhm.
that quite a bit. So I know for this one that I've been wanting to kind of like in the background, but closer up, maybe have some large kind of like desert cliff type
Mhm.
formation. So I don't know. I mean, I've not even done this yet, but let's see what it like. Let's see what that looks like. I'm gonna save this file and close it out.
That's really cool, man. Wow.
Just say big, medium, small. I'm gonna save this so I can like never have to convert it again in the future.
Mhm. Yeah.
Real quick, and then I'm gonna bring in and do some stuff with the Megascan stuff.
Mhm.
Also, oh yeah, we should look at like going through my library and seeing like, okay, like what am I gonna be using in here, and
Mhm.
what could look cool.
It's
Dude,
incredible.
so much stuff. Let's see.
Just it's endless possibility, man.
It
The
it
sky's
really
the limit on
is.
this.
I think that's what's fun about like mixing 2D and 3D is that
Mhm.
like you can go anywhere with it. I mean, you just have to. I mean, it's really your call. I see. I was
Mhm.
going to use.
The
There's a
Mhm.
terrain domain. I think that's like Nick Hyatt's
Yeah.
company.
Yep.
His models are dope. Like actually,
Mhm.
I have a few of them. They're like quite nice because I was using them in another project. So let's see. I might have
Mhm.
some stuff in here that I want to use. Let me see what this one is.
It's always kind of interesting to see how people will use 3D and 2D mixed together. Me personally, I am a big fan of mixing those two rather than I, I'm very biased towards the 2D route rather than just make everything 3D because I personally feel like 3D itself just has a specific
Mm,
look,
yeah,
and
and there's
without the help
always
of the 2D,
it's
it
it's
really changes it.
it's weird because there's like, I mean, at least
Mhm.
in architecture, there's always times where you're gonna have a situation where everything has to probably be 3D. And
Mhm.
then there's going
Yeah.
to be times where you're lucky enough to have somebody get you a backplate and you can work in 2 and 3D. I definitely probably prefer the latter. I probably prefer to work with a
Mhm.
backplate and 2D stuff as much as you can. I think it definitely, for
Mhm.
me, I think it looks. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my personal opinion. Than
Yeah.
complete 3D. But I mean, having said
Mhm.
that, I've seen that there are some, you know, at least people in my industry that do like insane 3D work. So I'm not going to like
Mhm.
say that it's not possible. And I think like again, this is my own personal work, so I don't, how I might approach that compared to like how I might approach something at the office is,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes
Yeah.
not the same at all. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
let's send this to
Yeah.
here and see what this looks like. I'm gonna start building this out.
Mhm. Then I know some people have questions on how to
Yeah,
do some
shoot,
lighting in Photoshop and how to
dude.
do
That's
some like
like,
neon lights.
dude, that's
Uh,
gonna be like all you. I
yeah,
think
I
I,
can show you some tricks.
I think like I think the cool thing about this one is like, this is not going to be like all me talking,
Mhm.
guys. This is going to be like Ian's going to jump in like next, which is super cool. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, you're the master of that stuff. If it was me,
Yeah.
I would probably, it would be like a back and forth thing. I'd probably set up some
Yeah.
neon stuff in 3D to get like
Mhm.
a
I
good
adore Photoshop.
a good base and then paint the rest in Photoshop. But I think you would be
Yeah.
able to like work straight up wonders in just in Photoshop. Dude, this saves like
Yeah.
constantly.
I can show you.
I completely did not. So just tell them like, yes, we will get to it. We're just
Yes, we'll get to it. And I've got some references pulled up of some real life stuff, so I can kind of explain a little bit on like how does it work in reality and how would we do it in digital. That way we can have the same reference and match to it.
okay. So let's see if this saved.
Yeah.
I think it saved. Megascans is
Yeah.
open. All right. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to bridge. Let's send this guy over there.
I absolutely adore Megascans. I use and abuse Megascans
It's good
for
stuff.
everything.
I mean, dude,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to, like I said, I mean, you're either going to use like terrain domain or megascans. I
Hmm.
think both are fantastic and have their place. But dude, I'm not going to make this rock. I mean, I don't want to go in ZBrush and do it for sure.
Right,
I
yeah.
don't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
not even, I don't even kind of want to do it. I want to do it not at all.
Hmm.
I mean, we talk about this.
Exactly.
I think we talk about this all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
part of doing this work is like, you know, I don't want to say like making your life easy per se, but yes, making your life easier.
Hmm.
Like,
Yep.
you know, um, I don't even know
Awesome.
what I'd be doing with this as of yet. Let's just see. That's a pretty small. Let's see that material. I just want to check a couple things sometimes. They're not that I think that'll be enough, but that's like an inch. I don't know that I would exactly do it like this, but let's see what that starts to look like. Yeah, I mean it's kind of coming out how I would expect in terms of
Mm.
like, it's going to be
Very nice.
most of the scene is going to be, kind of in silhouette. So
Yeah.
being that it's like completely backlit, which I don't know. I guess normally it would probably be maybe a little bit of a no-no, but I don't care
Hmm.
because it's my own work. And I mean, there's always ways to fight that, right? Like in this case, I'll probably start like, you know, let's see what this looks like.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing how it's linked to just one button and it's linked and the textures are there and everything.
Oh, dude,
I mean
yeah.
it's yeah,
I don't even think about it. It's like okay,
yeah.
like done.
You only have to adjust a little bit and that's it.
I mean,
It's impressive.
it's like the rad thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably have to like be more picky about how like these mountains start setting in, but definitely because we already have some mountains back here, I would probably like, start to do those in the foreground closer. And
Mhm.
obviously from my sketch, kind of like build out more of a cityscape in that area, and then start adding, um, you know, don't add the
Mhm.
sun, but start adding some lighting in.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
it's quite
Wow.
simple in here to do it. I mean I don't know how. I'm sure it's just as simple in like Redshift. So you
Yeah.
just have like an intensity. It's like you can set it into watts or candelas or like whatever you're working with.
Hmm.
I mean I usually try to keep it like pretty realistic, um,
Hmm.
so you're not like messing up your scene too much.
Hmm.
And then you can definitely obviously set that to direct input. This I just want like a warmer
Yeah.
light, so I'm gonna set it to a temperature and get it in there. That
Very nice.
let's see.
Just to get those little lights popping
Yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's constantly like and forth
Yeah.
like that. Oh, 1,000. Okay, let's go like
Mm.
1,000. Let's go like 4. It's gonna be a little warm. And then
Oh,
all that stuff, like I
very
can,
nice.
we can turn this down.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that like insane like that. Let's
Yeah.
let's take that. No.
A little light that's on top of a building. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is like,
Yeah.
also again the way you can be approaching what you're doing um,
Hmm.
in 2D. You can start to add like 3D on top of that, right? Like you can start to,
Hmm.
just through the lighting. I don't know. Like if it's like whatever it is,
Hmm.
if it's like like if you're needing some fill
Hmm.
lights behind, it's like
Yeah.
that's the great thing about like starting to work in 2D. I mean, you can, or 3D is like you can kind of start to cheat some of that stuff. Like if we wanted to say like, okay, um,
Hmm.
there's like, I don't know, maybe there's something going on, you know, back here that's kicking off. Let's see if we'll start to pick up something. Yeah, a little too much. Um,
Nice.
let's take that to there. Obviously, we don't want it to be that, so let's take the
Hmm.
intensity down to, but I don't know. Maybe there's like,
Awesome.
like I mean, you can play with all this stuff like forever. Like maybe there's
Yeah.
like some kind of red lighting or some kind of cityscape behind here. You can do
Hmm.
this. You could do this multiple ways in 3D, right? Like we could use a texture
Right.
as an emitter of a city behind this. That can work. You can do what I'm doing here, which is like
Hmm.
just kind of faking some fill lights in. I think there's like a ton of things that you could do that are quite nice. And a good way to be working and do that stuff and
Hmm.
taking those scenes that everybody's kind of working on right now and taking them to that next level.
Hmm. That's awesome.
I don't know, does anybody else have any other like specific questions, or I mean, do you have any, I mean, stuff like, I mean,
No, this is
we're
awesome.
always talking
'Cause
about
it's
this stuff like all the time, and I also feel like
yeah.
to the point,
Hmm.
I think you kind of take it for granted, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
You start like,
A
oh,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, you're just like, oh, okay, I do this all the time, so you know,
Mhm.
it's not like
I
one of those things
I
that.
think is a really cool technique just to put in a little bit of 3D. It doesn't have to be a ton, but if you do use 3D and bring in 2D together, integration is going to be a really big key part. Because it's if it's not brought together well, it's going to be very obvious. And it does make the viewer have a harder time like understanding the image, understanding what's going on, because the eye catches things that are not normal whatsoever. So when you're working on this challenge and you do some 3D into it, make sure you're integrating it right. Check your color, check the depth of field, make sure it's in the right
Yeah, I mean,
perspective.
this is
Um,
I think all that is like
mhm,
super poignant,
yeah,
right? Like obviously this is starting to get blurred out here, so I'm not even to that point in this scene, which is a
right,
little unfair, but you know,
right.
we would have to go back and set the depth of field on the camera, so these are going to be obviously a little bit
Hmm.
blurry, and the main story is going to
Yeah.
be up here. You know, more importantly, what I want to show people is like, look, you can take, you know, what you've already done in 2D and take the assets that, you know, that we have access to in the competition and like take your
Mhm.
image to that next level, you know, whether that be like,
Exactly.
I don't think you mutually exclusively have to say, okay, I'm going to make this image all in 3D or I'm going to make this image all in
Hmm.
2D, right? I actually
Hmm.
think it's
Right.
I
Yeah.
actually think it's super powerful to use them both. How you do that
Hmm.
and making sure you do it in the correct way. Um,
Right. Yeah.
and you know, um,
Exactly. That's
so
awesome.
I mean that's usually like how I approach stuff.
Hmm.
Did I just make that light like way too small? No,
Cool.
that's probably correct, somewhere around there. Um, you know, obviously there's, you know, this particular image is super in its infancy, and I'm not really talking about like, you know, matte painting a ton.
Hmm.
But we can kind of look at like, you know, another example of this is, uh, let me pull up like one of my older, my other images, and we can kind of like, so this is an image that I did a lot of that on. Like this was, and I'll show it. I'll open the Photoshop file. This was like a few different renderings, actually. The rain and the glass is all 3D, and
Hmm.
was done as a separate rendering from this. And then the gas station and everything else, that's a backplate. And then
Hmm.
my wife, obviously, is 2D. So, well,
Hmm.
that is my wife. So,
Yeah.
um, so
It's awesome though.
like I work this way like quite often. Really enjoy it. So like if you open up,
That is really cool to get into
I,
things
th-
like this.
I think I
And
like.
it's definitely something, yeah, I'm starting to utilize this technique more. I think it's incredibly powerful. You can be much more dynamic to how your scenes are built rather than just being stuck in either 3D or
So I think
2D.
this was the original.
Um,
This was the original kind of backplate. I think did a little bit of work with the
mhm,
sky. Did some work with the semi truck. What else did I do? And then added some fog in the background.
mhm.
I knew I
Very
wanted to
nice.
kind of do like a wispy, rainy, and then took it into 3D to work on that. But then, like, let's look
Mhm.
at. Sorry for
Very
those that are
nice.
asking. My Photoshop on the Windows side looks super bare because I don't do post production stuff on Windows. So I usually use
Mhm.
the Mac side of things. E and I have talked about that before too. I'm a Mac fan when it comes to Photoshop. Just I don't.
Oh, I am too, actually.
I
I
actually
prefer
don't.
it on the
I
Mac.
actually don't know I
Um,
don't know the hotkeys or anything that well for the Windows side of Photoshop. It's pretty bad. I'm really. It's
with
like
the
it's
with the Mac keyboard, I'm at least like 10 to 20% faster
yeah.
with it.
So
Yeah. That I really wish PC had a small computer that would be like this. Sorry, keyboard like the size of your hand,
Right. Be so
just
nice.
specifically for visual effects.
So yeah, so this was the backplate,
This is
right?
awesome.
Obviously, this was
Mhm.
how I talked about kind of rendering. Got some of that
Mhm.
in. Again,
Mhm.
uh, I don't know what I'm doing here. So, adding like just adjusting a few things. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of the dirt on the rigs and stuff, I just painted in post production. So like the
Yeah.
dripping and stuff like that. Like I don't,
Mhm.
especially for this far away, like it's not something that I would do in 3D. Um,
Mhm.
a specular,
It's really cool.
and it all kind of like starts to look like shit. Oh,
Mhm.
oh yeah, this is the rain coming in, which is totally different, right? Was a totally different rendering. It was literally I put like just a plane with a little bit of thickness in
Mhm.
front of the camera, and then used a rain dripping displacement map on that, and then
Mhm.
re-rendered the scene again. So get my wife in there, uh, add some rain kind of coming down. That was all like post production stuff. I'm
Mhm.
not going to do that in 3D. Um, Getting the reflection
It's
in
awesome.
from the ground. That actually was also part.
Mhm.
That was part of the rendering that came from doing the rendering through the glass. So it like distorted the hell out of the reflection, like it should. And I was like, okay, cool. Like
Okay.
so I can completely use that. I think I did like some police lights coming back there, and then the final adjustments. Because I'm a dark and
That's awesome.
creepy person. So, but this is like working the exact same way that like I was just describing. Like, I mean, this is made a backplate, cleaned the backplate, and then,
Mhm.
worked on top of that to, come to a different result. And so for people asking like, what do I do like at a nighttime rendering? I mean, this is a perfect example. I mean, this was basically a nighttime shot. Um, I did the same thing. I used an HDRI that
Mhm.
was cloudy, and and then obviously I knew most of the lighting would be coming from the rig and the machine and stuff. So um, that, and I already, of course, from the backplate had the lighting from the gas station. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a good way to work
Very
and
cool.
to get at something that I don't want to model that gas station. I mean, you could. I did. I mean, like, right? We talked about this for like the last image I did for the cover pack, where I did everything almost in
Yeah.
3D and only did a little bit of 2D work. So you definitely
Mhm.
can. You definitely can take that approach. I mean, that's not. And that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Like, I don't think it's right or wrong. I just, this is such a huge opportunity to, because of the assets and everything, to paint a really cool backplate and then put that in and use that back through your 3D workflow, whatever that is, whatever that software that I find a really easy way to do that. It's one of my favorite
Mhm.
ways of doing it. So
Very cool.
um, I don't
That's
know.
awesome, man. Wow.
That's kind of a. I don't want to say that's it.
Mhm.
That's like so boring. Like people are gonna be like, "What the hell, dude?" But it's kind of it. It's like all that complex. Other than that, I mean, you know, I think people just have to kind of like bring it all together. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. What else do you think? You have any? Like I said, we talk about this so much. It's kind of insane. So
Uh,
I take that for granted. I think sometimes. So if someone has questions, or even if you have questions, I mean, dude, shoot, fire,
yeah.
talk about it.
No, I think that's really cool.
I mean, I think
Um, I
it's
I think people will have fun playing with the 3D part and playing with those assets for all.
yeah. They
There's
showed
just a lot of potential with it. Um, I mean, the only thing I can think of with those assets, don't go crazy with them. Um, uh,
I think you have to
um,
find a
but
balance, right? Like, I mean, obviously can't
yeah,
have like, makes maybe 0 sense to have 400 of these guys in the scene, right?
yeah,
That's that rock's pissing me off because I'm not gonna leave it like that. But
mm,
um, you can't
Yeah.
have like 50 of these guys in the scene, so you have to like think about what makes sense for
Be
yours
strategic.
and be strategic about
Yeah.
that. And those guys
Yeah.
provided, like I said, they also provided like all those. Let's go here. I think they provided, like, it was crazy. Like, they have like all these guys like as PSD files too. So
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, they
people
do.
people if they don't have a 3D, they're not comfortable in 3D, then
Hmm.
I mean, still kind of no excuse, because these exist, and they exist all as like
Hmm.
individual people, and
Yeah.
then with
You get
every
all the passes.
yeah, with every pass on planet Earth on here.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
you have your ambient occlusion pass. Yeah, you have your material
You have
ID.
everything.
So you literally can like tweak these guys to no end. I mean, you could change their suit, you can change their lighting. Um,
Hmm.
everything's there. Me personally, I love having the flexibility of rotating a character in 3D and doing whatever I need to
Yeah.
do in there. Like if I want him closer to the camera, I can do that. If I want to add you know it's hard because I kind of know where I want this scene to go, so I know where those guys could play in like really well. I don't think we're gonna even get close to doing that. um, but I, it's a
Hmm.
pretty amazing thing to be able to do live like that, um,
It is.
and just comp that stuff in. I,
Hmm.
I don't want to say it's
That is really cool.
I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not super super hard, I don't think. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, what's cool in a lot of this, like just recently, like that we talked about the shadow catcher
Yeah.
stuff, and like you found out how to do it in Redshift. Um,
Hmm.
so it's
I still have to play with it.
like it's all
Right.
it's still like it's super easy. Like I mean, and it's
Mhm.
just like you just can do so much. I mean, it's like it's let's see, like I'm trying to think. Where was I at before? Oh, I was in here. Maybe I was in here? No. Nope. Yeah, here. Let's see what some of this looks like. I don't know. Let's add something like this to the scene. I don't know what it would do. 2021. So I use this software, or it's free. Well, I think we talked about this last time, called Connector. Um,
Hmm.
I think it works for. I don't know that it works for Maya, and I'm sure there's equivalents for Maya, Blender, and everything like that. So, but it basically just allows me to
Hmm.
like drag and drop this into my scene. Hold on, I think it's saving again. Of course. Here, let's put this in here and start to see what that looks like. I think this is when like having a good 3D library pays off.
Hmm.
Is when you're trying to
Definitely.
like when you're trying to use this workflow. I would say that like it's definitely much harder of a workflow to maybe if you don't have
Hmm.
a good 3D like library
Yeah.
to do that.
Definitely.
But I've seen like some of the works in progress, and it seems to be like people have quite extensive libraries. So I
Hmm.
think they should do that.
It's pretty impressive what everyone's getting to.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I mean, from like the last contest to like this, I'm like, holy
Hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like people
Everyone has stepped it up.
like people are
Like
kid
game on. Even
like
from seeing like what Zoe's doing and what Santa's doing, everyone's just leveling it up.
dude, it's those prizes, dude. People go like
Hmm.
they start going nuts for the prize. It's like, dude,
Hmm.
you start to take it serious. It's like I
Yeah.
must win that. But I think it's good. I mean, it's definitely motivating. Yeah,
Hmm.
so this is pretty normal. So obviously all my bitmaps are going to be fucking junk and not around as they need to be.
Whereas,
So
mhm.
another really cool plugin, if you're a Max user, Ian, we were talking about this the other day because I was like, dude,
Mhm.
you gotta not be doing that shit by hand. Is I use one that's called Relink Bitmaps, and so obviously
Mhm.
it's gonna come in here and say, dude, like from that last thing, you're missing all those bitmaps, and it's pretty easy for me to just say, okay, that's I'm gonna go to that directory and relink those real quick. Now I gotta find what model that came from. Where'd that come from? Great. Here we go. Let's see what that came from. 227. Right. So and just say okay, and then here, and then I'm gonna say ignore case, and then just relink those. And sometimes it takes a couple seconds, but that'll just relink those bitmaps, and I don't have to
Mhm.
like go in and individually um, do this. This is really good too if you're like
Yeah.
working. I don't know if are they allowing like team uh, images, like people allowed to like team up and do an image together or anything like that.
I I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. But
So
that would be a cool idea to do though.
no, I mean it's a good way to like. I mean if you're if you ever do get in that and you are in the habit of like needing to share assets and stuff like that, that's a really handy type. No matter what software
Hmm.
you're using, that's a really handy tool. Be
Yeah.
uh, utility to have, so you can, just send stuff to people and they can quickly like remap. Let's see what this looks like.
Mhm.
Dude, I can't wait to get my new computer.
It's going to be awesome to see it.
Dude,
Wow.
I won't be sitting around waiting for this to refresh. It's like so over. I mean, this machine is good, but I'm still so over it. I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay, whenever that decides, I guess, update. No, it was like that intense of a situation there. You can like close out some stuff. Yes, everyone, don't. No, I'm kidding. Not
Well,
plugging.
you've been talking, I've been kind of getting some things set up in Photoshop
Oh,
to
sweet.
show people
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, I think
um
it's a good time to
on
like,
some
let's see, like
yeah, on some holograms on like the soldiers on what to do, and
this apparently is going
um
to be super
is it
slow.
not working for you?
I don't know. Yeah. It apparently says that it is, but I'm not surprised. I mean, that's like a pretty heavy. I don't know how heavy that is,
Hmm.
and yeah.
Hmm.
Jimmy has a crappy PC tonight. Ugh, I hate you. Let's see if I make it smaller. Now it's completely like F off. Dude, I think it's a good time to like,
Yeah.
hand it over to you and
Cool.